You're listening to the JD Rucker Show. Let's begin. Hello, friends. Good evening, or good morning, I guess. I'm going to have to get used to this whole midnight East Coast thing. I've got two different. I'm broadcasting at the same time on 2 different days, depending upon which coast you're on, and if you're in the middle, it's still Monday. So hi to y'all as well. Oh, what a day. We had some breaking news. Apparently, President Trump has initiated tariffs against Canada and China. Oh, wait a second. Hold on. Breaking news. Nope. Apparently, Mexico has already changed their minds, and they are going to help out with the border. But that still leaves Canada and China. Hold on. We've got a breaking report. Nope. Looks like Canada broke as well. They're also sending 10,000 troops to their border. And obviously that was a very feeble attempt at me being funny. I put out an article. I believe it was Saturday. It might have been Friday, but I think it was Saturday. I put out an article basically saying that these tariffs, that they will be shown to be beneficial. That in the long run, the naysayers and the critics and everybody, the fear mongers, they will be proven wrong, and that this will not only not tank our economy, but that it will also greatly improve our economic standing in the world, because, hey, we will no longer be stuck with all these illegal aliens, all the fentanyl flooding our borders. There are other aspects, financial aspects as well. Outside of the tariff, the tariff component already has a financial benefit. But I was saying that basically the fixing of the borders, northern and southern borders, will more than pay for itself. It'll fix anything that it'll over. I'm sorry, stuttering, because I'm trying to say this the exact right way. It will benefit from it, is basically what I was saying. They will be proven wrong, the naysayers and the fearmongers. And I was incorrect, because I thought, I stated in my article that, there's going to be some pain, but that it will be worth it. And even Trump has said that. I said it first, to be clear. But I was wrong. Apparently there's not going to be a whole lot of pain, at least not based on the Canadian and the Mexican tariffs, because they are now on hold for a month, at least 30 days. Mexico is sending 10,000 troops to their northern border, our southern border. Canada is sending 10,000 troops to their southern border, or our northern border. And the idea here is to get help. We can do, and it is our responsibility to defend our own borders. But with that said, both Mexico and Canada have for years, for decades really, have allowed transit, have allowed the invasion to take place. Is it 100% on them? No, not 100%. I mean, we have to take the responsibility for defending our own borders, and praise God that we are now finally doing that, or at least taking the initial steps to do that. But they do have quite a bit of blame, because they allowed it. And I argued in my article, and I would argue again now, that the reason they've allowed it is because they don't care. And I would argue that most of the world doesn't really care whether America fails or not, whether America succeeds or not. They view us as, sort of like, hey, if there's a benefit to us being around, great. If there's not a benefit to us being around, then they just don't care what happens to us. If anything, they view us as pretentious, as privileged, as we have so much, they have so little, and whatever, They're jealous. I know that sounds petty for me to say, but it is reality. I mean, we see it every day with the fact that all these people that allegedly hate America are trying desperately to get in. And we see it even during the riots. There were riots. L.A., Los Angeles had protesters, quote unquote protesters, illegal aliens and illegal alien sympathizers, I guess, blocking the freeways, making a mess, But you notice that these protesters, they were sitting there, they were burning American flags while waving their own country's flags. Okay, well, I guess we're in agreement. They love their old country, and they apparently want to go back. We want them to go back. So, hey, this is unity, man. We're all on the same team here. They hate America so much they're going to burn our flags. They're going to do their chants. They're going to block law-abiding American citizens from being able to travel the highways, the busiest highways in America, by the way, in Los Angeles. They're going to make a mess out of that, to try to harm us. So they hate it here so much. They really just adore their country, or as Selena Gomez would say, my people are under attack. Okay, then we're in agreement. We will help you to get back to the place where you want to be, in Venezuela or Mexico or Syria or China or wherever it is that you come from. You hate us. You hate our nation. You're here, I guess, against your will. So you're burning our flags. You're protesting us. You're harming us with your protests, with your blocking of highways, with your attacks. Therefore, we are in violent agreement with each other. You need to go. Sorry. Not sorry. Got a big show today, actually. USAID. Oh, son of a gun. I actually did it. I had part of my... That's horrible. Pretend like you didn't just hear that. Okay, you didn't hear it. I've been watching too many of these dang videos. I was actually going to do an entire mini segment about how it's USAID. It's not USAID. Okay? Stop calling it USAID. That's wrong. And then first time I mention it, I say USAID. Wow. Failure. Utter failure I am. I forgot. Let me go ahead and I didn't totally forget this time. I'm only 7 minutes in, so we're in good shape. I still have time. I always forget every day. I forget to go to my X account, and pin it to your profile. There we go. I am pinning today's show, this current live show. I'm pinning it to my profile so that it can get more, more viewers, more whatever. I don't do very well on X. I shouldn't say I never have. There was a time when I used to get hundreds or thousands of retweets. This is back when I was Twitter, to date myself. I would get hundreds or thousands of retweets on pretty much anything I posted. But then I got tired of it. I got tired of playing the game, because it is a game. Okay, getting popular on Twitter is not just about, oh my gosh, here's an influencer. Look at Elon Musk or Donald Trump. No, I mean, and average everyday people can become influencers, quote unquote influencers, on anything, on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, or X. You can become a quote unquote influencer or a paid influencer. You just have to put in a lot of time and effort. You have to have creativity. When I say anybody, I guess somebody who has no creativity or no benefiting factor. I mean, there are people that have no talent per se, but maybe they're just attractive, or they, whatever. I guess you can call that a talent. But no, just about anybody can become an influencer. You just have to put in the time and the effort. And then there's no guarantee that you'll be super successful, but you can at least get to that stage. I've seen some people with absolutely no reason to be able to get hundreds or thousands of reposts and likes on their social media accounts, but they do because they put in the effort. And hey, awesome. Good on them, because they have in many cases found their calling. But I look at their posts, and there's some funny stuff there, but for the most part, what they're doing is, a lot of times, they're just ripping content from somewhere else, putting it on there, and because they already have a following, it's sort of like, I mean, I guess in a way, the talent would be recognizing what content other people will like and share, whatever, I guess, whatever. But no, I rarely, my shows, I want to build it up. Not my account. I don't care about my account. I want to build up my show on X, just as I want to build it up on Rumble and YouTube and everywhere else. So, yeah, I still have to put in the time, put in the effort, and hopefully, Lord willing, have the talent to be interesting. If you think that I might have the talent to be interesting, then now would be a great time to give a thumbs up or a like or whatever, to subscribe or follow if you're not subscribing or following. It helps. It helps. For those who noticed in the description, I did it 2 days in a row. This is the third day in a row that I've done 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time. That's going to be the new time, and it has nothing to do with somebody said, oh, you've got less competition there. I don't. It's not the competition. I'll go head to head with anybody. I will say what I say, and if somebody else is on saying something the same or something different, fine. I don't care. That's not. I don't look at it like that. This is twofold. Number one, as editor of the Liberty Daily, my shift starts at 5 p.m. Pacific, and it goes on until about 6:30 a.m. the next day. Technically speaking, I have a more than 12-hour shift overnight. Now I nap during that time, so it's not like I'm awake the entire time, but you get the idea. So that's number one, because I was doing it at 7 p.m. Pacific. The 2 hours just wasn't enough time. I started off at 6, thinking, I'll work for an hour and then I'll take a little break. I'll do my show, and then during the show I'll hop in there. It became pretty annoying. So I pushed it from 6 to 7, and now I'm pushing it from 7 to 9, and now it's easier. I'm sort of stress-free as I'm going through this because I don't have to constantly check. There's just less news coming out after midnight on the East Coast. So I'm still watching it. I have to. But it just makes it to where I don't have to post as real time. Okay, I'm in the middle of the show, and pause real quick. Let me go ahead and do that. Post something. Breaking news. I would rather talk to you about the breaking news rather than have to post it. So there's that. But then number two, the audience. You guys, I've always said, I said this for years now, that I have what I believe to be, and I have demonstrable proof of this. I have the most intelligent and thoughtful audience in the world. And that's not like some weird saying or and it's definitely not just subjective. I have seen the reactions. I've seen the people, and I guess this is not necessarily a reflection upon me, but it is telling that my audience, the comments that I get in my chats, my tweets, my DMs, my emails, they're just better. Okay, and I know I'm setting the bar pretty high. As you're sitting there, you're about to post a meme, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he says he's got an intellectual audience. I better not. I know. I mean, if you got memes, I love memes. You got whatever. You got a joke? Go into the chat. Tell me a joke. If I laugh at it, then I'll say it out loud. If I don't laugh at it, then I'll probably ban you. No pressure, though. No pressure. So yeah, like, follow, subscribe, thumbs up, all that good stuff. We do have this big show today, and when I say big, what I mean is that it is important. I don't know if this is going to be the longest show. I did like a 4-hour show the other day, but the topics that we're discussing today are very important, and most important, I think, of all of them, is USAID, not USAID. It's not USAID. USAID it's being attacked, and people say, oh, it's been shut down, or they're shutting it down, or slow down there, buccos. It is trying to say USAID is being shut down is like saying, oh, this lion, we closed the door on the lion, and it's just a grass door, but don't worry, we're safe. They're not going to bust in. USAID, as I noted on an earlier segment, that I will actually play that segment here in a minute, but USAID has a bigger budget than the State Department. The State Department is apparently supposed to be taking over USAID, but are they really? We'll see about that. I hope they do. I pray that they do. I pray that Marco Rubio and his team are able to rein things in. I pray that Elon Musk and his team are able to discover things that need to be reined in. I would love to see it completely eliminated altogether, and I'll explain why here in a bit. But yeah, it is, they're in the process of shutting it down. They're not going to go quietly. They're not going to go easily. And there's a whole lot of money behind it, not just the budgeted money that we're seeing. There's a whole lot of money outside of the government, outside of even America, that has a extraordinarily strong vested interest in making sure that USAID is, number one, still around and independent. Number two, not under the scrutiny of Elon Musk or Marco Rubio or Donald Trump or JD Rucker or anybody. They've enjoyed relative anonymity for decades. Okay, I mean this was put into place through executive order back in like 1947, and I don't think many people realize that this is bigger than the CIA. It's bigger than the State Department. It's more influential in a way. It's more influential than either when it comes to foreign affairs, and it's done so from the shadows. There's been very few people. Mike Benz has done a fantastic job for a while of trying to expose them. Glenn Beck has done some work trying to expose them. A few others have been talking about them. But for the most part, because there hasn't been this outcry, this rage against them, like there is against the CIA, the FBI, the whoever, they've kind of gone on under the radar, even in this modern age where transparency is so golden, so important. There's a lot of people out there who really have no idea. And this, even I was watching this morning, and even Steve Doocy, not a fan, to be clear, but even Steve Doocy on Fox News, he's talking about how, their primary role is to deliver humanitarian aid to, and it's like, what? You had Mark Ruffalo, who I'm going to play here in a minute, saying that they're talking about humanitarian aid. You have all these people. I think I'm not going to call this particular account out because again, the misinformation and disinformation and even just lack of knowledge about USAID is understandable. I mean, I've done probably maybe two segments of shows over the last like 5 years about USAID, so it's not like I've been doing my part. Okay, I haven't done what others have done. I mean, I've done what most have done. I haven't done I've known about the duplicity, the corruption, the scandals. I've known about most of them for a long, long time, and I didn't do my part. I didn't. I'm sorry. I wouldn't say that it's because there was bigger fish to fry. I wish I could say that. It's because, well, people don't seem interested in it. So, I'll give you a quick example of why. And I was wrong, to be clear. I'll acknowledge that up front. But just as an example, I did, probably 6 to 10, somewhere in that range, segments over the years about the Council for Inclusive Capitalism. This is an organization that, until recently, they've kind of gone a little bit dark. But prior to that, they were essentially the action arm of the globalist elite cabal. If you think of the World Economic Forum, which gets all the attention, right? They're a recruitment arm. There's basically like a think tank for the globalists. They're supposed to they're propagandists. They're supposed to throw out ideas, right? But you don't see, the World Economic Forum initiates a, coup in whatever. No, that's the Council for Inclusive Capitalism. Okay, the Council for Inclusive Capitalism was started in a partnership, and I'm not making this up. You can look this up. It was started in a partnership between the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. It involves the Vatican. You could go up and down the list. You could basically say, hey, make me a list of all the participants in the globalist elite cabal, especially at the top ranks, and they're all there. Okay? The only name missing is Soros. If Soros' name had been in it, then everybody would have hopped on board, right? But I mean, you got Bill Gates involved. You had all these really bad people. It was relatively new. I think it started in 2017. Point is, let me cut to the chase because I don't want to talk about them right now. Point is, I did like between 6 and 10 segments about them, and I got nothing, no responses. Nobody seemed to care. You talk about the World Economic Forum, it's like, oh my gosh, kill the globalists. You talk about the Council for Inclusive Capitalism, they're like, oh, yeah, that's pretty crazy. So tell us more about the World Economic Forum. Okay. Well, I give the people what they want. That's a similar situation as what has been happening with USAID. I've known about them, but it's just easier to talk about corruption on this show. It has been in the past easier to talk about corruption regarding the CIA or the NSA or the Biden regime or the World Economic Forum or whoever, right? USAID has flown under most people's radar, and so I didn't do my part to expose them, and I do apologize for that. Liberty Talk in the chat says USAID naming convention seems a purposeful. It absolutely is purposeful I hate this word, obfuscation. Hate that word. It's one of those weird words that it's like Loop did. Okay. Funny joke, private joke. But as it is obvious, Spook CIA Central, it makes sense. Yes, it is Spook CIA Central. Think of it like this. If the CIA, they are, number one, they're militarized. Number two, they are, behind the shadows. They're in the shadows. They're cutting deals. They're taking out people. They're controlling people. They're trying to build assets. They're doing all this in the shadows. USAID, they're the ones that come in with a check, okay, and they say, okay, cool. So I see that you talked to my buddy there in the shadows. He told you that we would be able to help you with stuff. Great. So I'm gonna need you. We're gonna need this. We're gonna need to put a large cache of weapons here, and we're gonna build a school on top of it. Okay. So here's the money for the school. You can start construction of that after we do our thing, and it'll only take us about 4 or 5 days. We'll do our thing, and then you build your school right there, and it's awesome. You'll love it. It's great. And then if anybody asks you where you got the money, just tell them it's USAID. USAID, not USAID, not the CIA. None of that stuff. Just tell them you got it from USAID and that we're helping with the school. If they ask you what's under the school, just call him and he'll take care of whoever's asking that question. That's obviously a fictional version of what takes place, but it's not far off. I'm pretty close to. That's actually really relatively accurate, which is why I think it's hilarious that we are seeing crazy talk about USAID. Let's start off with my favorite United States president. Here's what he called USAID earlier today.
USAID, or what's going on there?
Well, it's been run by a bunch of radical lunatics, and we're getting them out. USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out, and then
radical lunatics. I tell you, guys got away with words. Let me see here. What else we got? Here's a good one. Okay, this is for those who, because we're going to see. Let me preface this before I play the video. We're going to see a full court press. A lot of people are going to come out, and they already are in the process of coming out and trying to defend or diffuse or distract from anything that has to do with USAID. You're going to hear the words humanitarian aid repeated over and over and over again by so many people, including, again, it's not just leftists. You had Peter Doocy saying, you had this one X account that I absolutely adore, who was referring to all the humanitarian aid that USAID does. Not realizing, perhaps, or maybe not understanding, perhaps, or perhaps willfully ignoring or suppressing the fact that humanitarian aid, any humanitarian aid that USAID gives, is a front for a very nefarious cause. And if you want proof of this, let's go back to the very beginning of this whole hoopla. Not the very beginning, but the very beginning that started this recent attack. Doge, okay? Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency went to go check in on USAID. They physically locked the doors, would not allow them entry. They said there's too much top secret and even above top secret information in here, and Doge is not allowed to see it. Now, they're not the only ones that have ever experienced that. We've had members of Congress and the Senate say the same thing. I went to go check on them to see what's going on, and I couldn't even get in the building. Now, let me ask you something. If you're one of those who believes that USAID is about humanitarian aid, what The hell can a humanitarian aid organization do that requires the absolute highest degree of security clearance in order to see? It's like, hey, we're gonna build a library for the children here. Well, let me look into the details. No, you can't. It's top secret. I could show you, but then I'd have to kill you. Well, it's just a children's library. Exactly. It's just a children's library. Stop asking questions. Does that make any sense to you? Have you ever heard of an aid organization whose the information they possess is protected? It's more secretive than RFK Sr.'s assassination, JFK's assassination, MLK's assassination. All that's coming out. But apparently, the humanitarian aid given by USAID is far too dangerous for any human being outside of that building. Anyone who's not part of the globalist elite cabal, including arms of the executive branch, arms of the President of the United States. Nope. No visibility, no entry, no soup for you. How is that even possible? Why has nobody ever asked questions about that? And I shouldn't say nobody. There have been great people who've asked questions about that. I shouldn't complain. Thankfully, it's coming out. People are starting to ask questions. But unfortunately, the opposite is true too. Because it is coming out, you have people like Joy Reid out there trying to call this a coup because we want to know what's so secret about the quote-unquote humanitarian aid coming from USAID. Watch this.
But we begin tonight with a full-on crisis in our democracy, as federal workers are literally locked out of their offices while operatives working for a private citizen essentially take over our government. Their tactics include turning off our federal websites, deleting government-funded research that you, the taxpayer, paid for to impose speech codes, bullying news organizations by demanding interview transcripts, implementing an FBI purge, locking federal workers out of their computers, and even turning them away at their offices while giving themselves, without congressional or any other authorization, full access to the personal data of tens of millions of Americans, including Social Security recipients, FBI agents and officials, military and government contractors, and every single employee of the federal government. All of that data in private hands that you did not authorize, even if you voted for Donald Trump. This as Trump installs unqualified minions at the heads of every federal agency, knowing that they wouldn't stop this even if they knew how. At least when he's not threatening multiple trade wars or vowing to launch a new age of American imperialism by colonizing the indigenous people of Greenland and the Panama Canal, all while congressional Democrats issue strongly worded letters, plus holding a press conference today, and congressional Republicans sit back and let the federal government they work for collapse all around them, while they occasionally beg Trump for tariff mercy for their states. If this were happening in any other country right now, I promise you, I'd be on the air calling it a coup.
You know, I have to admit, I actually enjoy having Joy Reid on air. I really do, because she's so wrong. She's so awful at her job that she makes my job easier. She's one of those, there are certain leftist legacy media types that I don't like having them on the air because they're pretty good at convincing people about the lies. Okay? They really are. You know, they're all laughable, but I mean, like Jake Tapper, for example. Jake Tapper has this thing about him where he comes across as trustworthy and he can really, lure people into believing the wrong things, right? Even though he did get his butt handed to him by Stephen Miller over the weekend. I'm not going to play it, but if you want to look that one up, it's really good. But Joy Reid, she doesn't convince anybody. She's just she's so bad at it. I was like, please, let's have her on all day, every day. Okay, just change MSNBC, just make it the Joy Reid Network, and just just give her however much coffee or tea or whatever it is that she drinks, give her a bunch of that, and just let her do the entire network 24/7, whatever it takes, because she will. Even leftists will be sitting there, they're nodding their head, and then she'll say something kind of weird, and they'll be like, huh? And then they'll be like, wait a second. And you can say the same thing about Rachel Maddow, by the way. Same exact thing there. And since we're ripping on these people, what about Chris Hayes? Same thing there. They just have this thing where it's like the more they talk, the worse their argument becomes. So I say, let them talk all day. Why should we stand in their way? Let them do the talking. So we do have some good stuff to talk about, some changes, but I wanted to play the Joy Reid thing to let you know up front that this isn't over, not by a long shot. This isn't one of those things where they're going to, they're going to put out Trump's going to put out a decree, an executive order. Marco Rubio is going to do his thing, and Elon Musk is going to do that thing, and they're just going to, okay, well, we'll try to fix it in 4 years or whatever. We'll try to fix it legislatively if we win in 2 years, them being the Democrats. No, this is one of those things where they are in full-blown panic mode. They're like, call every legacy media guy we got, tell them to start just talking about humanitarian aid and here, what's a good word? What's a good word? Russia collusion. No, we can't use that one. That didn't work. Insurrection. No, we can't really, because technically speaking, we're doing, no, that's like coup. That's it. We'll call it a coup. Then, yes, this is a coup by President Trump, who's in office. Will that work? Could that work? I don't know. Here, try it out with Joy Reid. Okay, if she doesn't get caught up, people, it's like she's already an idiot. So let's see if her idiocy will stick, and if it sticks, then we can try it with other people. I mean, they are terrified. They are absolutely terrified. Not just of what will be exposed through digging deeper into USAID, they're terrified about losing what they believe to be supremacy in the world. If you want to know how big this organization is, again, like I said, it's huge and bigger than CIA, bigger budget than CIA, bigger budget than the State Department, massive number of employees and massive reach in literally every country in the world, right? But if you really want to know how important they are, we don't just have to look at the secrecy. We have to look at the fact that, like, they're the crown jewel possession, so to speak, of the of the globalist elite cabal within the U.S. government, because it has not been focused upon, because they've been able to funnel so much money through it, because they've been able to use it to gain a foothold everywhere. Again, if you missed in the beginning, think of it, the CIA goes in there, they do their thing, they do reconnaissance, they do surveillance, they build assets, they might assassinate a person here or there, bribe this guy, bribe that guy, or make promises here or there, right? They do that thing. They're the glory boys, so to speak. But who's doing the actual work? It's USAID. USAID is the one that actually goes through and says, okay, we've got this situation. We've got, we gotta keep this particular operation under scrutiny. We gotta buy off that local official. So how much is it? 47,000. Okay. So let's go ahead. Let's launch a transgender opera. And you might ask, why would they do that? Why would they be? Because now you've eliminated over half of the people who would possibly give it any scrutiny. I say over half because obviously the left, they see trans opera and they're like, must be awesome. No need to look into that. But you still have some people on the right in government that'll be like, ooh, a trans opera. I don't want to, if I look into it, they're going to say that I'm transphobic and I just don't want to deal with that. So I'm just going to leave that one alone. More than half of government officials, left, right, doesn't matter, would avoid that. It's like it's a deterrent for investigation. So they're like, okay, let's give this guy we'll pay him off. We'll do a $47,000 budget for a trans op. It's only going to cost us $1,400, so he's going to still be able to keep $45,600. And that's, he's got to pay his guys off $5,000, and that'll leave him about $40K, and that's how much he's gonna, that'll set him up in his country. He'll be rich for the next 6 years, right? That's how it goes down. That's how they're able to get corrupt officials, corrupt this. They're able to hide stuff. USAID is basically the action arm of the non-militarized action arm of the CIA. They have their other things where they've got military assets. They have other ways that they can, other roles, I guess, within the CIA that they have to engage in. But when it comes to who's writing the checks, who's making it look pretty, who's covering up their evils by calling it humanitarian aid, that's USAID. Okay. Did I already play Carol and Leave It? I don't think I did. Did I? I don't think I did. Here's a little tidbit. She threw this out earlier Monday.
We are 2 weeks in, and President Trump is already delivering big wins for the American people.
That was the wrong Carol. Here it is. Sorry, that was the wrong one. Here's the right Carolyn Leave It.
Through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I got too many Carolyn Leave It's laying around here in the show. We'll try to get them sorted out after this coming break. When we do get back from break, we'll be talking about Marco Rubio, what he's going to be doing. We'll be talking about the panic that's taking place, not just in Congress, not just in because they're out there, doing their little rants about USAID. It's not just about corporate media; they're doing their little rants about USAID. But the people who are most panicked, that are, I guess, most terrifying in a way to us. And when I say terrifying, I'm not saying being fearful. I'm saying we need to be concerned because they're terrified. So we need to watch what they do. And yes, unfortunately, it's the entirety of the deep state itself. This is their action wing. This is how the sausage is made. And somebody's finally looking into it, and they're like, we didn't think this day would ever come. We don't even have a contingency for this. I hope they don't, because that contingency might be really, really bad. We'll look at some other agencies that we want to terminate, and then we will get into tariffs. We'll get into tariffs, but I really want to make sure to hammer this one home. Again, short break, under 1 minute break, and then when we get back, we're going to talk about Mark Ruffalo. Sorry. Whether you've been a prepper for a long time, or maybe you're just getting started, looking around and thinking how crazy it is. We usually cover the basics. You get your food, you get your water, you get your ammunition. Don't forget your ammo. You get your battery chargers, solar battery chargers, or whatever. But a lot of times I think people will forget their meds. Okay, whether it's chronic meds, antibiotics, I think a lot of people don't even realize that you can stock up on that stuff. They go to the doctor, they go to the pharmacy, and the pharmacist said, oh, here's your 2 months supply or whatever. Well, you can actually stock up on a lot of these meds by going to jdrucker.com/meds. You'll talk to the good folks over at Jace Medical. They can get you a 12-month supply of certain prescription drugs. They can get you emergency meds, all sorts of good stuff, things that you may or may not need, but it's always good to have it on hand, because I guarantee you, even if you don't think you need it today, you might need it in the future. jdrucker.com/meds. That's no joke, by the way, folks. It really is time to start stocking up on any meds that you need. They've got the chronic stuff. So if you have a need for chronic medications and you want to get a long-term storage supply, I would definitely contact my good friends over at Chase. So let's get to Mark Ruffalo. It's been a while since I've really focused on one particular Hollywood star. Maybe it hasn't been, but still, we're going to pretend like it is. Ruffalo is awful. And that's why, before I discuss he was one of the first ones to come out and attack, in this case, attacking Donald Trump and more vehemently attacking Elon Musk over USAID scandal, debacle, whatever you want to call it. He was arguably the first, and it's the most unhinged thing I've ever seen. So that's why I'm going to ask you, before I play this segment, short segment, I'm going to ask you to please like and follow, thumbs up, all that good stuff. Subscribe wherever you're watching. Go ahead and do that now, because after you hear what Mark Ruffalo said, you might be mentally paralyzed, and you won't be able to like or follow after that. That is how bad it is. We're talking about taking Hollywood, making it dumber and more radical than it already is, and that's embodied by actor Mark Ruffalo. Actor Mark Ruffalo drops a conspiracy theory about Elon Musk that is certain to annihilate your brain cells. This is one of the dumbest things that I've ever read coming from Hollywood, and that's saying a lot. Mark Ruffalo, of course, is so radical left. I mean, he's radical left for Hollywood, okay? He's to the left of even some of your most snowflakes in Hollywood. This guy is absolutely unhinged. He's completely jumped the shark, and I think that the election of President Trump, followed by the last 2 weeks that Trump has been in office since the inauguration, I think they have finally completely broken him, because this is weird. I had to double check to make sure this wasn't some parody account or something, because even for Mark Ruffalo, this sounded bad. According to his post on X, Elon Musk wants his empire on Mars. The reason he wants to shut down USAID is that he wants taxpayer money to fund and build his empire there. Brilliant. I know that sounds insane, and it is. At least he acknowledges it. The one thing Elon pressed upon me when I first met him was that he was going to go to Mars and set up a civilization there. He stopped being a humanitarian and a good guy when he realized there was no way to get there without cleaning out government coffers, and there was no way to do that without stopping humanitarian aid here in the USA and abroad. Keep your eyes on the ball. When Elon slashes costs, it's for his own pocket and no one else's. It's stealing is what it is. He sees those trillions as his, not ours. He thinks he is saving humanity by going to Mars. He is clearly ending humanity and humanitarian aid to get there. We are Elon Musk's stepping stone. Be aware, he is already rich off government contracts. Now he is gaming the system. Trump has become his lapdog. Watch all the things Trump gives Elon now. Elon has seized him. Now, clearly, he has no idea what USAID actually is. He even spelled it in his post, US, capital U, capital S, capital A, and then the lowercase ID, as if it has anything to do with aid. For those, just in case you don't know, USAID has absolutely positively nothing to do with aid. It's not a humanitarian organization. It is a deep state CIA front group. I mean, that's what it is. You know what? I actually have, let me see if I can find it. I actually have a video. Yeah, we're going to play it. I'm going to play this video to reveal to you what USAID is actually all about, because clearly Mark Ruffalo doesn't know. And to be fair, I was listening to Fox News, a clip from Fox News this morning, and clearly even, Steve Doocy? Is that his name? I don't watch Fox News. I just saw the clip. But even Steve Doocy was talking about aid. Oh, they're building hospitals and bridges and whatever. That's not what USAID does. Here's what USAID does.
So what is USAID? When people hear the name USAID, they focus on aid. They focus on thinking like it's humanitarian work. But aid is not actually in the name of USAID. USAID stands for the United States Agency for International Development, not aid. It's not a charity. And international development is simply capacity building. It is local and regional capacity building done across the whole world, i.e. internationally. The primal id in USAID, international development, is about capacity building of assets that can be used by either the Pentagon, the State Department, or the CIA for their own activities. So if you're the Secretary of State and you were asked by the National Security Council or the President to do something in a different country, overthrow their government, stop the passage of a bill in a foreign country's legislature, how would you do that? And the first thing that I said is you would look at the assets that already exist in the country. Do we need new assets in addition to the ones that we currently have, or are the existing assets, can they achieve this simply by giving them enough money, giving them enough resources, giving them enough training, giving them enough support? One of the main ways that capacity building would be financed would be through USAID. USAID would say that it's doing something, funding a hospital system, funding universities, funding civil society organizations, funding media institutions, funding independent media in the region. Sorry, there's something in my eye. Independent media in the region on USAID payroll. And those institutions, those assets, would then be bigger and more powerful and more capable more capable of serving the State Department's goal, aka advancing U.S. national interests. USAID has a bigger budget than the State Department, over $50 billion. It is a bigger budget than the CIA. The entire intelligence community only has about 72 billion. So that's the CIA plus the 16 others. And USAID has a bigger budget than the CIA and is almost the size of the entire intelligence community combined. That is how important USAID is to American statecraft. It is an intelligence community, a State Department, and a Pentagon assistance organization rolled into one. I just copied this from the USAID website. USAID carries out U.S. foreign policy, advances U.S. national interests by promoting broad-scale human progress. At the same time, it expands stable, free societies, creates markets and trade partners for the United States, and fosters goodwill abroad. The operative phrases here are carries out U.S. foreign policy. This is not charity work. This is not aid. This is cynical, self-serving purposes. And what is it seeking to do? Free societies, open societies. Why does USAID want other countries to be open societies? Because that's how you get the influence in. If a country is a closed society, they're closed off from USAID influence. We cannot capacity build our assets there. Closed societies box USAID out. China is a closed society. That is why we have not been able to topple the government of China, despite having tried for 100 years now almost. We have not been able to topple Putin from Russia. Why? Because Russia is a closed society. Like China, they kicked USAID out. It is not an open society. And so the USAID can't just take over their entire media ecosystem by funding 100 different media propaganda outlets in the region to sway hearts and minds. And remember, that's what this is. It's hearts and minds and cash. That's what soft power is. They call it hearts and minds work, but it's cash that does the moving of those hearts and minds, especially of the leaders of the movements.
Well, there you go. That's a very good, I wouldn't, no, we'll go ahead and say it's excellent. I would say that's an excellent explanation for 3 minutes or so. Here's a flashback clip. This is from Tucker Carlson's show, and he had on RFK Jr., and this gives you, I would say, maybe not necessarily better, but a slightly different angle from somebody who knows it in a slightly different way.
It's called the Madon Rebellion in Ukraine, which we're not told that we are financing those riots. The newspapers never told us, our government never told us. USAID, which is a CIA front, put $5 billion into funding those riots. Those riots lead to the coup d'etat against the first democratically elected government of the Ukraine. It was a government that refused to choose sides and to say we're going to be on the side of the West. So we wanted them out. A month before that government is overthrown, Victoria Nuland, who's the part of the centerpiece of the neocon ideology and who is now a high-level official in the State Department, has a secret call with the U.S. ambassador, which is tape recorded and is now public, which anybody can go and look up, where she is picking the new cabinet for the Ukraine, which is which is a U.S. Western cabinet. So they're picking the new government a month before the old government is overthrown.
Is that how democracy? Is that democracy when Victoria Nuland picks her government?
Well, that's the point. Is USAID doesn't really do, and the CIA don't do democracy. The CIA has overthrown, I think, 83 governments between 1947 and 1997. That's a third of the governments on Earth, and most of them were democracies.
Most of them were democracies. That's true. And pretty much everything he said, I'm not even going to note the one minor part that I disagree with. Not a big deal. Point is that USAID is huge. They have nothing to do with aid. It reminds me of sugar in the raw, right? You remember, those packets. I think they still have them. I don't eat sugar, so I think they still have them at like Starbucks or whatever. You get those little brown packets. They're called sugar in the raw, and it's supposed to imply that they're raw sugar. And the reality is, those are actually, they take raw sugar, they process it down, they take, regular granulated sugar, and then they process it again to turn it into sugar in the raw. It's actually less raw than like your regular granulated sugar. They just call it sugar in the raw. That's a marketing tool. USAID, the reason they call it USAID is it's just a marketing tool. It's a front group. This is the deep state, okay? This is basically how the deep state funds and controls assets abroad. So for Mark Ruffalo he can hate on Elon Musk all he wants. That's fine. That's his prerogative. But at least, all I'm asking for you Hollyweird people out there, if you're going to hate on somebody for a particular reason, at least get the reason itself correct. Otherwise, you just look like an idiot. Follow some or all of my work. Go to jdrucker.com. Oopsie. Sorry. I picked the wrong one. I'm supposed to pick. I've got one version that has that little clip thing. Oh, if you like the clips, blah, blah, blah. Then I have one that doesn't have that. And I played for you guys the wrong one. Apologies for that. Now you're going to want to unlike and thumbs down my stuff. And I'm so sorry about that. If you want to click the thumbs down button, be sure to click it twice. That way you'll make sure that it sticks. Let's talk about USAID. I did it again. Dang it. Got to get over that. It's USAID. USAID. When we call it USAID, it's sort of like nope, not going to do it. Let's see what happened. There was actually something that happened over while I was playing that. Something that I thought was interesting. I'm coming into this story blind. I haven't read it yet, but it seemed interesting enough that it was worth talking about. So this comes to us. Oh goodness, Town Hall. Poor Town Hall. I get it. They really want to keep you from. They want to make money. I have nothing. Not against them doing that, but they try really hard to make sure that you disable your. I did disable my dang ad blocker. Disable. There we go. Disable. There. Okay. Nope. It's disabled. I'm looking at it right there. It's disabled. But they refuse to let us read that. So, guess what? We're not going to get to talk about this story. Oh, hold on. Nope. I'm going to just pretend like you can see it. This is a story by Sarah Arnold over at Town Hall. So I'm going to go ahead and read part of it to you and just pretend like when I'm looking over on the right that you can see what I'm seeing. Title, here's how Democrats reacted to DOGE reviewing Treasury payment systems. And this really was the catalyst for all this hoopla that we're seeing now. This cover-up, because that's really what it comes down to. Democrats, including Senator Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, had a press conference on Monday to rail against the Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, for reviewing payments made by the Department of the Treasury after Elon Musk was granted access to the payment systems, which revealed questionable payments used by the U.S. government. The DOGE team, there's a quote from Musk, the DOGE team discovered, among other things, that payment approval officers at Treasury were instructed always to approve payments, even to known fraudulent or terrorist groups. They literally never denied a payment in their entire career, not even once. Now imagine having a government job where your job is literally just to be a rubber stamp, where you just have to approve. You don't have to look into it. You don't have to read it. You don't have to investigate it. You don't have to determine if it's worthwhile or not. You don't have to say, hey, this looks like it's going to terrorists who are killing people, killing Americans. Should we pay for them to kill Americans? Well, yeah, I guess so. Rubber stamp. Back to the article. The senators accused Musk and Doge of abusing the Treasury payment systems to illegally impound funds. What? Warren shot back, saying that the Democrat Party must do everything in its power to protect the American people from harm. She said, Musk and his associates, I can't even try to do an Elizabeth Warren impersonation. Musk and his associates were granted access to the U.S. Treasury's payment systems. The same weekend, they threatened their way into United States Agency for International Development and seized Office of Personnel Management computer systems. Schumer said he and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries will introduce legislation to stop unlawful meddling in the Treasury Department's payment systems. He claimed that Doge, or, according to Schumer, right-wing extremists, has no authority to do what it does within the department and called it outlandishly dangerous to give Doge access to its payments. It's like putting a tiger into a petting zoo and then hoping for the best. My gosh. They're getting worse at it, by the way. They being the Democrats. Maybe it's because they're getting older, like Chuck Schumer, Elizabeth Warren. They're getting older to the point that they no longer have any capacity to be able to be creative or to be intelligent or anything at all. They just lash out using the same old, right? That's it. They have no creativity left. No, they're pulling from the old playbooks. And that too should alert us that they just weren't expecting this. They didn't know that it was going to come this fast and this much. I don't think any of us did. Okay, maybe you did. You guys are part of the most intelligent audience in the world. Therefore, maybe you were aware that President Trump and Elon Musk and Marco Rubio and all these people were going to like hit the ground running is a vast understatement. They're going to come in and just rip stuff apart and do it so fast in rapid fire that we're drowning in winning right now. Okay, we really are. I mean, it's like, they say they opened up the floodgates. They didn't open the floodgates. They blew up the entire dam. It's just like an onslaught, an onrush of positive. And there are bads, by the way, to be clear. There's always going to be bad with the good. I don't want to make it sound like, oh my gosh, Trump's doing everything perfect. He's not. He's screwing some things up, and we will talk about that here in a minute. But as far as what they're trying to do here, spot on. No complaints. If anything, I hope that they have a plan to be able to handle the counterattacks that are coming, that are already in progress. Whether it's treasuries, rubber stamps, or USAID's ugly, evil, super above top secret campaigns, operations, all of it. I hope they're prepared. First Trump administration, they weren't prepared for just the slightest pushback. They failed miserably. I mean, Jeff Sessions gets one memo and all of a sudden he's cowering and running away and setting up the entire Russiagate hoax. Mike Pence, gets one little memo saying, hey, get rid of General Michael Flynn and it's done. I mean, it was weak. Okay, I'll call it what it is. The first Trump administration, especially in the early days, was extraordinarily weak. Today, the second Trump administration is the exact opposite. I mean, I have never seen this degree of strength, whether it's tariffs, whether it's the attacks on the deep state. I mean, I think more has been done in the first 2 weeks of the second administration. More has been done to truly harm the deep state than what was done the entire first Trump term. We can say, oh yeah, Trump's already taken more questions any other, or than Joe Biden did in his entire 4 years. It's probably true, but I don't care. You're setting the bar too low. The bar should be the first Trump administration, and they are pole vaulting far above that bar in so many ways. I expected good things. I expected great things. And I underestimated how awesome it could be. We are drowning, as I said, in all of this amazing winning. That's a good time. I'm going to get back to talking about USAID in a second. But this is a good time to play the Caroline Leavitt video that I tried to play, or started to play earlier, inadvertently. This tells you a little bit of what's happened in the last couple of weeks.
We are 2 weeks in, and President Trump is already delivering big wins for the American people. Let's go through the facts. On the border, President Trump declared a national emergency, deployed the military, ended catch and release, and reinstated Remain in Mexico. And already, illegal crossings are down 95%. We are resuming construction of the border wall, and Colombia's president is now offering his own plane for deportation of illegal Colombian immigrants. On the economy and energy, President Trump unleashed American energy, declared a national energy emergency, and killed Joe Biden's radical electric vehicle mandate. Wall Street is booming, AI investments skyrocketed to $500 billion, and there's $20 billion flowing into U.S. data centers across our country. President Trump is restoring law and order. He labeled the drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and he is deporting criminal illegal aliens, and he signed the Laken Riley Act into law. Draining the swamp, President Trump signed more than 45 executive orders. DEI has been purged from the government and our military, and lazy federal workers have been ordered back to the office. And when it comes to free speech and transparency, President Trump took 12 times more press questions than Joe Biden did in a week, reinstated 440 silenced journalists to the press room, and ended government censorship. Promises made, promises kept, and we're just getting started.
While that was playing, I started looking into, I don't have the story here, but Indiana Seamstress says, did you see the story about TD Bank of Canada and them being guilty for laundering CCP fentanyl? Nope. I have not seen that yet. So I'm going to look that up on the next break. So because that would be big. Anybody who watched President Trump talking about, I think it was not just, no, was it either Trump? No, it was definitely Trump. Trump in advance was talking about it too, justifying the tariffs before, of course, Canada bowed down and said, oh, never mind. But before that, Trump was talking about how they won't even allow our banks in there. And TD Bank, Canadian Bank, is one that we'll see. I'll get to that story. That seems like a very important one to look into, and I can do that during the next break. But let's get to a quick story. I want to set the stage with this story because as I said, USAID they stopped Doge, which is and basically think of Doge as an extension of the president, just as Tom Homan and as the borders are, is an extension of the president, right? Working with ICE, working with Customs and Border Protection, working with Pam Bondi, with Kristi Noem at HHS. It's sort of like basically representing the president when it comes to, directly representing the president when it comes to deportations, right? Doge is sort of the similar thing. Because it is it's a manufactured position that's designed to, they did some juggling, moved some things around, and now you've got Doge, right? And it's designed to help the president to uncover the waste, the inefficiencies within government, of which last I did count them at one point, and I believe there's about somewhere around 14 trillion inefficiencies in the U.S. government right now. So they've got their work cut out for them in Doge. But this is not new. In other words, the obstruction that USAID has been engaged in has been very long standing. This is something that it's not just from Doge. It came from Congress, from senators, including current boss, I guess you could say, officially now the boss over at USAID, because it's moved under the State Department. That would be Marco Rubio, who's not doing it directly. He said he noted earlier in an interview that he had delegated control for now, but we'll assume that he's going to have more control than that here soon. Before we get to that, I wanted to set the stage about what all is happening. There's an article over at the Post Millennial. USAID to be merged into State Department with Marco Rubio as head of agency. So here's the background details. This comes as an email was sent out to USAID staffers saying that at the direction of agency leadership, the headquarters facilities will be closed to agency personnel on Monday, today. Well, yesterday if you're on the East Coast. The United States Agency for International Development is reportedly being merged with the State Department. The Secretary of State and Secretary of State Marco Rubio will serve as USAID's acting administrator. According to CBS News, senior White House reporter Jennifer Jacobs, sources said that USAID will be moved under the purview of the State Department, which will bring cuts to the workforce. It will remain a humanitarian aid entity. We keep getting back to this. It's not a humanitarian aid entity. Anyway, according to ABC News, a source said that Rubio has been made acting administrator of USAID. This comes as an email was sent to USAID staffers saying that at the direction, we already covered that. Did they repeat themselves or They did. They repeated themselves. Darn it, making me look bad. Anyway, you get the idea. So Marco Rubio is the new boss, okay? And unlike a lot of things, it's not anything like the old boss. This is going to be very different. And they're going to fight it. They being people within USAID, members of the government outside of USAID, non-government organizations outside of the United States that are working with USAID, foreign nations that rely on and whatever it is they get from USAID, and yes, the deep state, especially through their spy wing, the CIA. All of these various organizations have direct vested interests, which is why they will then point to the Chuck Schumers of the world and the Nancy Pelosi's of the world and the Elizabeth Warrens of the world. They'll even roll out Rashida Tlaib, I'm sure, or somebody to really go after this. And they're going to roll out legacy media. They're already in the process of doing that. So this isn't going to be easy. They're going to have an easier time dismantling the Department of Education. They'll have an easier time dismantling the Department of Energy. They'll have an easier time getting rid of some of the known departments than they will this allegedly small agency, whereas it turns out this agency is not small. This agency is very well funded, very well connected, and shrouded in the type of secrecy that, if you've ever seen The Usual Suspects, okay, Kevin Spacey, Chaz Palminteri, Gabriel Byrne, they had a lot of great actors in that one. But there was a line when they're talking about Kevin Spacey's character, Verbal Kent. There was this line where, he's being brought in, and it's like, he's being protected. It's like he's being protected from on high by the Prince of Darkness. That's Verbal Kent is USAID. Okay? Kaiser Soze. That's what USAID is. Not a lot known about him. Not even a lot of people who should know about him know about it. And yet, extreme levels of power. And that's why they're going to fight tooth and nail. Marco Rubio went on, I believe this is Fox News. I have to click it to see it. It's sort of like a Nancy Pelosi Obamacare bill. You got to pass the bill to read it. I got to click on the video to see it. But as I recall, because I'd watched it earlier, I think this is where he describes how even when he was in Congress as a senator, that he had a difficult time getting any transparency at all from USAID. Apologies for that. I just saw no sound. Wow. How did I screw that up? That's what I get. I went to go work on some stuff and got a great story that I got to share with you, but I didn't see that it wasn't playing on your end. I could hear it. You guys couldn't. Should I play it again? I'm going to play it again because it is important. I'm going to play it one more time. Apologies for that. You know, it's every episode. If you've been watching the last 3 or 4 episodes, ever since I've been doing these things, it seems as if I have one massive technical difficulty that always has to do with sound every time. One massive snafu technical difficulty. I think it was it Friday or might have been Thursday. I went like 14 minutes. I'm just sitting there talking, blah, 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 blah. I didn't even look. And then I look in the chat. It's like, hey, we can't hear you. It's like, and I look down and it's like, oh my gosh. Everything went into slow motion. Started having heart palpitations or something. No, that's not true. But let's go ahead and play this with sound.
Well, look, I mean, my frustration with USAID goes back to my time in Congress. It's a completely unresponsive agency. It's supposed to respond to policy directives of the State Department, and it refuses to do so. So the functions of USAID, there are a lot of functions of USAID that are going to continue, that are going to be part of American foreign policy, but it has to be aligned with American foreign policy. I said very clearly during my confirmation hearing that every dollar we spend and every program we fund, that will be aligned with the national interest of the United States. And USAID has a history of sort of ignoring that and deciding that there's somehow a global charity separate from the national interest. These are taxpayer dollars. And so I'm very troubled by these reports that they've been unwilling to cooperate with people who are asking simple questions about what does this program do, who gets the money, who are our contractors, who's funded, and that sort of level of insubordination makes it impossible to conduct the sort of mature and serious review that I think foreign aid writ large should have. We're spending taxpayer money here. These are not donor dollars. These are taxpayer dollars, and we owe the American people the assurances that every dollar we are spending abroad is being spent on something that furthers our national interest. And so far, a lot of the people that work at USAID have just simply refused to cooperate. Are you currently in charge of USAID? I'm the acting director of USAID. I've delegated that authority to someone, but I stay in touch with him. And again, our goal was to go in and align our foreign aid to the national interest. But if you go to mission after mission and embassy after embassy around the world, you will often find that in many cases, USAID is involved in programs that run counter to what we're trying to do in our national strategy with that country or with that region. That cannot continue. USAID is not an independent, non-governmental entity. It is an entity that spends taxpayer dollars, and it needs to spend it, as the statute says, in alignment with the policy directives that they get from the Secretary of State, the National Security Council, and the President. And it's been 20 or 30 years where people have tried to reform it, and it refuses to reform. It refuses to cooperate. When we were in Congress, we couldn't even get answers to basic questions about programs. That will not continue. That's not going to continue.
Can you hear me now? Apologies for that. Liberty Talk says blame Windows. Look, I'll blame myself for being so challenging to work with when it comes to producers. And maybe it's because, yes, granted, I've always gotten kind of the inexpensive, the budget producers to help me. If I had a good quality producer that I could pay really good money for, then we wouldn't have to deal with any of this. I would be able to just do my thing and not have to worry about, this stuff. But unfortunately, I do. Indiana Seamstress says, bravo to Marco for seeming to be in line with MAGA. Was never sure about him in the past. Look, Marco Rubio was one of my early boys. All right, way back Tea Party days before he won the Senate. It's like, this guy's got, he's walking the walk. He's talking the talk and walking the walk. Down in Florida legislature, he's a rising star. Seems to be pretty darn brilliant. Ex-football player. Had all the boxes checked. I thought this guy's going to be a star. He gets into the Senate, U.S. Senate, And in a matter of months, John McCain owns him. And it's like, oh, well, that sucks. I mean, here's a guy that I thought, wow, we got a rising star. And then all of a sudden, he's on the Gang of Eight, and he's pushing for amnesty, and he's doing this, that, or the other. Not only pushing, he's like their poster child. It's like, oh, we got us a good young buck to take care of all this stuff for us, and so they went after him, and they got him, and then he ran for president, and it was a disappointment with that. I never supported him in his 2016 presidential run, and then I sort of dismissed him. But I think what we're seeing now is actually a relatively common thing that we don't get to see nearly enough of. Okay, when you have somebody who has spent, especially if the entirety of their political career has been in the legislature, which Marco Rubio, between state and national legislature, he was in his 20s when he was first getting into the state legislature. And then, of course, so you got this guy who's spent his entire life as a legislator. Once he gets into an executive role, whether that's as a city mayor or a governor or a president or, in this case, a bureaucrat, okay, because that's what he is, a cabinet member, a high-ranking bureaucrat, that's where we start to see, I would say, most legislators fail at this because they're used to being sort of one voice in a crowd, and when they're kind of given the boss level, it's sort of like being a great football player, or basketball player is probably better. Being a really good basketball player, that doesn't usually translate into being a really good coach. Well, oftentimes a good legislator doesn't translate into being a good bureaucrat or any member of the executive branch. They're not used to making the singular decisions, right? But sometimes, and I think this is the case with Marco Rubio, it's the opposite. In other words, somebody who was, in my humble opinion, a mediocre legislator. High hopes in the beginning, bombed after McCain got him. But now that he's in an executive role, running an entire department, a very large and important department, now all of a sudden, it's like he's getting to shine. Okay? This is I like this Marco Rubio a lot better than the legislator Marco Rubio. He can actually, hopefully, Lord willing, hopefully he'll be guided by his faith. He'll be guided by his love for this nation. And he'll be guided to do what he's supposed to do, which is, at the end of the day, it's not just to serve President Trump, it's to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. And I think that, again, we'll see. It's still early. I mean, he's been in the job for a week, okay? So it's not like, oh my gosh, But during this week, this 2 weeks that he's been there, he's killed it. Okay? He's absolutely killed it. So kudos to Marco Rubio. I think we finally found a place for Marco to shine. I hope that is the case. All right. Son of a gun. Did I take a break earlier? I did. No, I didn't. I took a break a long time ago. Let me take a quick break for the sake of those aforementioned sponsors that they will hopefully, if I get a lot more of them, or at least better paying ones, maybe someday I can get a producer and we won't have any of the sound issues anymore. So let's go with, who are we going with? Let's go with beef. Last year, my long-term storage food company, Prepper Farms, was partnered with and actually owned by another corporation. I know that nobody knew this. Very few people were even aware that this was the case because our production, our systems, everything was in place and working just as it should be. People would go, they would put in promo code JDR at prepperfarms.com. They would receive the maximum possible discount, as always, and then they would get their long-term storage beef. What you didn't know and what we can now explain now is that this year in 2025 we have gone back to the original ownership structure, and I'm very excited about that because that puts me finally back more in charge, and I am super excited about that concept, not because I crave power by any means, but because I feel that as an America First veteran-owned company that we need to focus on helping Americans to prepare for whatever is to come, whether it's natural disasters or emergencies or de-dollarization, food crises, bird flu, whatever it is. We do expect something to happen, which is why we built prepperfarms.com in the first place. The idea here is to get high quality, all American, all Texas beef, the good stuff, ribeye, New York strip, tenderloin, all of that good stuff, and freeze dry it naturally to give it a 25-year shelf life. We don't add any preservatives. There's only one ingredient, and that's beef. Lasts 25 years in the bag, and that's awesome. So support this show, support me, support yourself and your family. Protect yourself for the future by stocking up on long-term storage, high-quality beef. Go to prepperfarms.com. That's prepperfarms.com. Use promo code JDR, and you will receive the maximum possible discount. That's the other thing somebody told me. I should pop the links to sponsors in the chats or whatever on the various. But again, I got to do better, so I can give me a real producer. I can be a real boy. Instead of clicking all the buttons and doing everything around the Liberty Daily all at once. Yeah. So, but yeah, that is prepperfarms.com. So, there was another story over the weekend, and it's important because now technically it's Tuesday for a good chunk of the United States. Today's the day. A couple things happen. Number one, Netanyahu meets with President Trump. Number two, this is the deadline for all the information regarding January 6th. People were investigating during January 6th or regarding January 6th for their names to be from the FBI to be released. Well, there was another one that I talked about over the weekend. I really thought somebody else would pick up on it. And we had the USAID talk. We had the tariffs. We had all this crazy news. Still got planes falling out of the air. Still got information about that coming in. And so this little, what I consider to be a bombshell, as far as I know, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, I'm still the only one that covered it. And I covered it over the weekend, but I'm going to play it now because it hasn't played on the live show. Basically, hidden in the FBI purge over January 6th is an odd connection between the FBI and Hamas October 7th leaders. And I know that the timing isn't coincidental, that they want the FBI information as Netanyahu is getting here. Not saying, I'm just saying, watch this. There's a hidden and mysterious bombshell in the email sent out to the FBI agents telling them that leadership is getting purged and many FBI agents are probably going to get purged as well. We covered a little bit about this yesterday, but then I started digging into it and I realized there's something really weird in the middle of all this that nobody's talking about. Gateway Pundit brings it up a little bit, but they didn't even mention it in the headlines, the funny part. I just happened to decide, you know what, let's go ahead and read the email itself, just in case. Every now and then, there's going to be a little hidden tidbit, and I got to expose that. Fox News barely mentioned it. Others that are covering this purge, this righteous purge, and glorious, awesome purge of the Federal Bureau of Investigations, there's, like I said, there's a little hidden bombshell. We'll get to it. But according to the article, the headline, the email confirms 8 senior executive terminations, calls for all FBI personnel assigned to January 6 investigations to be listed, and names submitted. Submitted for what? Many of them we assume, are going to be terminated. According to an email from Acting Director Brian Driscoll and reviewed by the Gateway Pundit, each field office is required to submit a list of all personnel, current and former, who were involved in January 6 investigations and prosecutions by noon, February 4th. It doesn't even mention it in there. Let me just cut to the chase here. So, well, I'll read part of the email. We understand there's a lot of media reporting and rumors surrounding the potential changes at the FBI. This includes reporting and rumors about actions very seriously impacting our workforce, consistent with our commitment to share information with you as we receive it. Acting Deputy Director Kassane and I wanted to provide you with an update. Late this afternoon, I received a memo from the Acting Deputy Attorney General notifying me that 8 senior FBI executives are to be terminated by specific dates unless these employees have retired beforehand. I have been personally in touch with each of these impacted employees. The memo also directs me to provide by noon, Tuesday, February 4th, the following. All current and former FBI personnel assigned at any time to investigations and or prosecutions related to, number one, events that occurred at or near the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. The fake, false, manufactured insurrection. Okay, and that's in bold. We're highlighting that. But then we get to number two, and it's like, what is that supposed to be? Number two, FBI personnel involved in the United States versus Henia. Now you're probably like, who the heck is Henia? Ismail Henia was one of the Hamas leaders, one of the architects of the October 7 attack. What in the world does that have to do with anything else? I mean, it's not related to January 6th. It's not related to the raid on Mar-a-Lago. What is going on here? That's question number one. Question number two is, why is nobody asking these questions? Why? I mean, I'm asking, but why is nobody else asking? These lists, and then it says that, it drops that bombshell as the hidden little secret number two, but then it doesn't say anything about it. These lists should include relevant supervisory personnel in FBI regional offices and field divisions, as well as at FBI headquarters. You know what? Let's go ahead and pull. I want to be accurate with this. Let me pull it up real quick, see if I can find. Let's get some information about. I know about the United States versus Henia case, but let's see what we've got. Let's go to Brave and United States versus how do you spell it? Hania. There we go. Okay. And Brave AI is what they say. The United States has taken significant actions against Ismail Hania, a leader of Hamas. In 2018, the U.S. Department of State designated Hania as a specially designated global terrorist under executive order. This designation was part of a broader sanctions targeting individuals and groups that pose a significant risk of committing acts of terrorism that threaten the security of the U.S. Nationals or the national security, foreign policy, or economy of the United States. Here's the key. In October 2024, the U.S. Justice Department announced terrorism, murder, conspiracy, and sanctions/evasion charges against 6 senior leaders of Hamas, including Hania. These charges related to their roles in planning, supporting, and perpetrating the terrorist attacks that Hamas carried out in Israel on October 7th, 2023. The indictments highlighted Hania's involvement in Hamas's relationship with the Iranian regime and his leadership role in the organization's political and military branches. However, it's important to note that the International Crimes Court had previously filed a case against Hania in the context of the situation, yada, yada, yada. So it doesn't tell us much. Hello? It's like we want to go after everybody who was involved in January 6th. That makes sense. Oh, and also, we want to go after anybody who was involved, and I didn't even know there would be FBI involved in this, but apparently FBI were involved in United States versus Hania. Look, normally I can at least come up with a theory. I don't have a theory. I mean, why is it in there? Why is this? What does October 7th have to do with FBI firings? If you stop and think about it, this is a potential bombshell because we know about the corruption. We've talked ad nauseum about the corruption within the FBI as it pertains to January 6th. It's been even reported by legacy media. They can't even ignore it anymore. This is the first time I've heard of potentially fireable offenses committed by FBI agents and FBI leaders regarding United States versus Hania. What does this have to do with anything? I don't know. Sorry, I hate to sound all whiny and ranty about this, but this is a head scratcher. If you all know, if anybody has any ideas, please put in the comments, reach out to me. You can reach out to me directly by going to jdrucker.com/talk, jdrucker.com/talk, or hit me up on X. I have open DMs at JD Rucker. I want to know because, again, like I said, there it is. It's like, January 6th, FBI. Oh, and also this obscure case about a guy that's dead. He's dead, by the way. Israel took him out like last July. Okay, so I want to know what is going on with that particular set of firing, and what does it have anything to do with January 6th or the FBI or anything at all? Once again, I pulled the wrong one, but no, that's the right story. I just wrong version of that particular one. So yeah, I mean, it's not a coincidence. These things are happening, and they're not getting covered, not even by many in independent media. Okay, I'm talking about quote unquote fringe media, even. You know, some of the ones that are more conspiratorial, they're not touching it. I think it's not because I think they just don't know. You know, everybody, as it pertains to the FBI purge, everybody was talking about J6, J6, J6. And if they weren't talking about that, they were talking about Mar-a-Lago. You know, I was doing the same thing. I just happened to think, you know what? Let me go ahead and look just a little bit deeper, and then it's like, what, huh? How did that get in there? Why did nobody tell me about this? Well, it is what it is. So we'll see. I'm going to stay on it. I wanted to wait until Tuesday, see what transpires Tuesday, and then see is there a deeper rabbit hole to go down? We'll see. For those who are new to the show, number one, thank you for coming. Please be sure to subscribe, like the videos, all that stuff. Follow if you're watching on X. But number two, lately I've been talking a lot of politics. Our core for the show really does surround two things. Number one, faith. Number two, conspiracy theory. But I do both very differently than I think most others do. When it comes to faith, I'm not the guy that's going to be there. Okay, turn your Bibles to 1 Thessalonians. No, that's not me. I'm not going to be reading Bible verses and going over stuff like that. I will talk to you about faith, and especially as news regarding faith. Okay. And then conspiracy theories, but again, even there, I'm very, 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 very careful. Okay. Much more careful than I think a lot are. And that hurts me in a way because look, I see stories all the time. It's like, holy crap, that's a bombshell. And then I dig deeper into it, and it's like, that's not even real. So I won't cover it. There are definitely conspiracies out there. And I would say probably about half, we'll say, that's the safe answer. About half of them are accurate, which is more than I think most would think. Most think, most of them are wrong. And just occasionally one turns out to be true. I think it's about half. Half are correct, half are either wrong or disinformation. One of the tricks of the CIA and USAID and all the others, deep state shills, one of their tricks is to throw out conspiracy theories to cover up other actual conspiracy facts. They say, they're looking into this. Let's throw out this. That'll get their attention, and then they'll be focused on this. Meanwhile, we'll be, taking this reality and we'll be pushing it off to the side. We'll be debunking this one, but we'll say, oh my gosh, it might be true that this is happening. You guys better hop on that one. I'm trying to be as discerning as possible is the point when it comes to both the Bible and conspiracy theories. And I would argue that they are intertwined. With that said, lately there's been so much political news that I have to go back to my what I'm trying to get away from, which is talking more politics. But thankfully, with President Trump in the White House, it seems as if all three are sort of aligning perfectly, right? I mean, you got the things that he's doing, which is pushing out more conspiracy theories for us to investigate, which is drawing us into the need to be more faithful. It's like so perfect. It's like I can handle this. This is fun. But I have been talking a lot more about politics. Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. So let's get to one more story. The last story about USAID, and it does pertain to at least a little bit of a conspiracy theory. This comes to us from AmericanGreatness.com, AMGreatness.com. They're called American Greatness, but they go with a short name because it's shorter, I guess. Panic in the deep state as DOJ pulls back the curtain on USAID. And that's really what they've wanted to never happen. They've never wanted to pull back the curtain. You had Marco Rubio earlier talking about how he was trying to pull back the curtain. They wouldn't let it. You got people like Joy Reid and Pocahontas out there saying, "Stop trying to pull back the curtain. You're bigots. You're climate change deniers. Let's see, what else do we got? You're Russian assets, shills. You're domestic terrorists." They'll throw out whatever they can at us, but yeah, we know the truth. Let me enlarge this a bit so you can follow along if you'd like. Can I close out their ad? They have an ad that I can't close out. That's unfortunate. All right, we'll get it a little bit bigger. The newly formed Department of Government Efficiency Commission has gained access to the Treasury Department's federal payment system and is revealing some disturbing truths about the U.S. Agency for International Development. DOGE has discovered that USAID is funneling billions of taxpayer dollars to various CIA fronts and favored organizations under the guise of a humanitarian agency dispensing foreign aid to needy and disadvantaged people around the world. They're so needy and disadvantaged that they have to be held in absolute above top secret facilities. It's crazy. This means that U.S. taxpayers are being fleeced in order to pay for the nation's intelligence apparatus, covertly funding regime change, coups, and protests. I'm going to skip that post. USAID has funneled millions of dollars to Venezuelan opposition groups and has bankrolled anti-government media trying to overthrow former President Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro. In 2010, USAID used shell companies to fund the creation of a Twitter-like app in Cuba that was intended to foment dissent among young Cubans and to spark protests meant to sweep the communist leadership from power and to replace it with a U.S. puppet. The plan failed when it was exposed in 2014. Don't get me started on John Bolton's involvement in that. Questions are also arising over the immense amount of funding directed to Ukraine through USAID, even as Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is claiming that he has only received $70 billion of the $180 billion in U.S. aid that has been sent to his country. I saw Babylon Bee headline earlier said Vladimir Zelensky asked for another $20 billion so he could find the $100 billion that's gone missing. That's Babylon Bee. That's supposed to be satire, but I don't know if that really is satire. There might be a little bit of truth in that, unfortunately. Nearly $40 billion of the U.S. taxpayer aid sent to Ukraine has been sent through USAID, raising serious questions about how much money has been fraudulently distributed. According to a post by Amuse, which was reposted by Elon Musk, Ukraine, what if 58% of the U.S. taxpayer dollars sent to Zelensky never even reached Ukraine? Where did it go? Did the CIA skim a cut? Did Ukrainian officials and generals pocket their share? Did the big guy get his usual slice? If Zelensky's claim is true, then he only received a portion of it. And there's a little, I'm not going to play it because it's, basically you already know what he said. He said about $100 billion is missing and he wants to know where it is and he wants it back, even though it wasn't his to begin with. And now, by the way, just so in case anybody ever thought, I wonder why they're so adamant about keeping the war in Ukraine going. What is it? That's really weird that all of these government people, all these non-government organizations, all these foreign entities and foreign interests and all these globalists seem to be really wanting this war to keep going. I wonder why. Even more disturbing are reports that in 2014, Anthony Fauci's NIAID and USAID sent some $40 million in U.S. taxpayer funds to a scientist working on coronavirus research in Wuhan, China. Crazy. Where the scientist later became patient zero. You're telling me, okay, so what you're saying is USAID, which Pocahontas and Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and AOC and Joy Reid and I'm sure the Morning Joe is going to go defend them. Yeah, USAID was sending money to Wuhan, China, to a lab to do research on coronaviruses in 2014. trying to wrap my brain around this. Something's telling me, and this might sound crazy, but something's telling me that maybe a lot more people had a vested interest in COVID-19 than we've been led to believe. Back to the article. President Biden's pardon of Fauci extended back to, wait a second. 2014? Is this all starting to make sense? Are the pieces coming together? Are we starting to see that 1 and 1 plus 1 actually equals 2? I think so. Another repost by Elon Musk, this time Chief Nerd, posted, let me get this straight. Fauci's NIAID and USAID sent over $40 million in U.S. taxpayer support to a scientist in Wuhan who was working on bat coronavirus emergence research, who also became patient zero for COVID-19. Crazy. But it's not. It's not crazy at all. Again, there have been people who have highlighted USAID's clear deep state connections, unambiguous front group for the CIA. Okay, the only ambiguity is that nobody's been talking about it. And I'm guilty. Okay, I'm more guilty than most. Because other people who are just coming around, including, for example, Elon Musk, other people, they didn't expose it because they didn't know until they had this information. I've known about USAID's corruption and involvement with the deep state for years, and I didn't say enough about it. So I am far more guilty than somebody who's just now learning about it. At least they have a reason. Okay, they were ignorant. I knew it was bad, and yet I only mentioned it a few times because nobody seemed to be interested. I'm not blaming anybody else. There's certain times when it's like, you need to be made to care about something, and I should have done more. I'm sorry. I should have. I feel awful. I didn't know all of this stuff, by the way. I didn't know that part. that is definitely news to me. I didn't know Patient Zero was funded by USAID. I mean, is that not? That's some crazy stuff there. That's some crazy stuff. Elon Musk's team of Doge engineers was called into existence by President Trump to find and eliminate $1 trillion in wasteful, fraudulent government spending by 2026 after obtaining access to the Treasury payment system. Musk wrote, yada, yada, yada. We already covered that. The amount of taxpayer waste, covered that too. And that's it. No, good article. Good article. That one, again, comes from amgreatness.com, which I know they do republish a lot of stuff. They do. And sometimes they will post stories that are like 2 or 3 days too late, but every now and then they absolutely nail it. Okay. There's certain publications out there that I think get it when they don't always get it right, but when they get it right, they get it very right. And I know these because, again, I read so many stories as editor of the Liberty Daily plus AmericaFirstReport.com plus DiscernReport.com. I have to read through and I have to see, I get a bird's eye view of the zeitgeist, essentially, of conservative media. And I would say that American Greatness is one of those out there that when they get it right, they get it really right. Who else? The Federalist. The Federalist, sometimes their stories are good, okay? But sometimes, every now and then, they get just an absolute winner. Just like, oh, wow, that was a really good one. American Thinker, another one. And they use just freelancers. They don't even have really, they have some staff writers, but most of their content comes from freelancers. And every now and then, those freelancers just nail it. JB Shirk over there, dude should win a Pulitzer or 2 or 3. I mean, he's that good. Yeah, place like that. alt-market.us. I know it sounds crazy. But Brandon Smith over there, again, I don't always agree with him, but when he gets it right, he gets it very right. And maybe you've never gone to alt-market.us, but you've probably seen his stuff. It gets republished everywhere. He gets republished by Zero Hedge, by the Liberty Daily, by all of my sites. He gets republished over at InfoWars republishes him every now and then. I've seen his bylines on a lot of, Lou Rockwell republishes him a lot. Yeah, anyway, sorry. I'm just, if you're not familiar with AM Greatness, it's a great site. It's an AM Great site. That joke did not land at all. All right, let's get into some non USAID stuff. That was supposed to only be the topic of the first hour, and we're coming close to finishing hour number 2. So let's move along. Any other questions about USAID? And I'm sure I'll be talking about them more after tonight, since I neglected to talk about them nearly enough for the last several years. Let's talk about, here we go. Just a quick change of subjects here real quick. This is a story I did again over the weekend. Nanny state goes after storm chasers with ludicrous regulations in Oklahoma, of all places. Oklahoma proposes legislation to limit storm chasers and require permits. Now, out here in California, I am used to the nanny state rearing its ugly head and either trying to make extra money off of anything that you do, or to limit your freedom to do what you want to do, or in their preferred best case scenario, they can accomplish both of those evil goals. But in Oklahoma, which is supposed to be a red state, you wouldn't expect the nanny state to be rearing its ugly head. But according to Amy Curtis over at Twitchy, that's exactly what's happening. This writer, she says, was 13 in 1996 when the summer blockbuster Twister hit theaters. Ever since then, she's always wanted to chase at least one storm and see a real tornado just once. But she won't be able to do that in Oklahoma if this proposed legislation becomes the law of the land. According to Reed Timmer, PhD, over at X, looks like Oklahoma is trying to pass a bill to require a license to storm chase, and you can only get this license if you work for TV media or a university. In other words, pretty much only leftists, because who else works for legacy media and for universities? You betcha about 9 out of 10 are going to be on the left, even in a state like Oklahoma. And here's why Timmer opposes the bill, and I'm sure you have your own reasons. My reason is that the nanny state should not be rearing its ugly head anywhere, for that matter, but in Oklahoma specifically. That's one of the final bastions of what's supposed to be our freedoms to be able to do things such as be dumb. I mean, look, I've gone storm chasing with my amazing wife. We lived in Oklahoma. That's where I met her. So we've gone storm chasing as amateurs. I wasn't in legacy. Well, I guess technically speaking I was, but for at least a little bit. But I definitely wasn't in the education system. I wasn't for a long time in legacy media, and I wouldn't have been able to get a permit. But we had the ability to go out there, and it was terrifying, and it was stupid, and it was fun, and it was a blast, and I have zero regrets about it. But it used to be, at least it still currently is, but they're trying to change it to where you're not allowed to be stupid or fun or exciting or whatever, and that's just un-American. Here are the reasons that, what's his name? I forgot his name now. Reed Timmer lists as why this is a bad idea. Number 1, seems to define a professional storm chaser as one who works with legacy media or university. Most professional storm chasers are streamers through social media or work with radar or weather apps, not with the FCC. Number 2, no limit on the road closures. They could, in theory, close off a whole section of Oklahoma and only make it accessible to licensed storm chasers. Number 3, many Oklahomans get their severe weather information from non-legacy media storm chasers. We reach orders of magnitude more Oklahomans than many local news broadcasters. And number 4, this is a step toward broader regulations, and spot on there. And it is true. I mean, legacy media is dying. We know that, and especially in certain industries. But when it comes to stuff like this, storm chasing, I mean, when there's a storms, we still have family in Oklahoma. So whenever there's bad weather, storm warnings, tornado warnings in Oklahoma, my wife is glued to it, and she's not going to the Weather Channel. Okay, she's not going to local news channels in Oklahoma. She's going to the storm chasers. These are professional storm chasers. They're just considered amateur because they're just streamers. You know, they okay, so maybe they might have gotten a degree in meteorology, but they're not employed by ABC or CBS or the University of Oklahoma, so surely they can't be serious or have the... No, these people are pros. They're stunning pros. And if you've ever seen, by the way, not that I'm recommending it because there's this whole weather modification motif about it, but Twister 2, whatever, the recent movie that came out, I think last year, yeah, even they're showing how it's private individuals, not news channels, not universities that are out there actually doing the good work and chasing these storms. And again, I know that's fiction, but that does match reality. Reality is when storms come out, these teams of streamers, they're amazing. Okay, and yes, it's dangerous. But I mean, the world is dangerous. We can't live in a world where everything requires a helmet. Okay, we need to have the freedom to decide. And the fact that it's coming out of Oklahoma is downright un-Okie in my books. Wow. Okay. Had a thought cross my mind. Gotta push that particular thing out of mind. Don't say it, Rucker. Yeah, as a former Okie, it does sadden me that is happening. I've got one more real quick. So quick side note before I get into this other story. I've got a few more stories to get into for sure, but this one pre-recorded version. So people ask me because I've got it everywhere, right? I've got not everywhere, but obviously, but I've got the show plays on a lot of different places, including 2 separate Rumble channels. The other Rumble channel that you're probably not watching, you're probably watching on my standard Rumble channel, the JD Rucker Show, which is great. That's always going to be the place where I put all of my live shows, as well as most of my pre-recorded shows or segments. Maybe not, I wouldn't say most, some. Okay, but my other channel, which is it's for Discern TV. Okay. You can get to it by going to jdrucker.com/rumble1, the number 1, jdrucker.com/rumble1, where that's the channel on Rumble that I'll be using to post, like what you just saw was posted over there earlier today. Okay. All of these pre-recorded segments that I do, like right now I'm live. I can see Indiana Seamstress say LOL. I can see that I've got like four retweets or whatever on reposts on X because I'm an X winner. I got 4, but you get the idea. You know, this show I do live, but I do have those segments that I pre-record because when a story comes through, I want you to understand briefly. I know this is too meta. I want you to understand briefly what the thought process here. I go through the news hardcore every day, 7 days a week, 365. 366 on a leap year, okay? I don't take a break, and I go through and I read hundreds, thousands of headlines, literally. I read dozens of stories. I watch a lot of videos. I'm in here in my studio and office every day quite a bit. I do give as much time as I can for family and for, of course, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I shouldn't say I give as much as I can. If I were a better man, I would give a whole lot more than I do. I would give it all to him. But I'm still stuck in this world, and as a result, I still have to make money and do my job and do this other stuff. I wish that I could let it all go. That's a discussion for another day. But anyway, point is that a story comes in, I want to talk about it. You know, I get dressed in the morning, take my shower, get dressed in the morning. You'll notice that I've actually worn this suit now for every single segment. That's for continuity purposes. That's it. It's so that I can stay organized. I keep the color and the background the same until the next show. That way I have partitions. All right. That's a little bit too much inside baseball, but you get the idea. But I will post those segments. All of them will go, the pre-recorded ones, all of them will go on my other Rumble channel, jdrucker.com/rumble1, the number 1. They'll also go on my YouTube. Okay. But I don't put all of them there because sometimes I'll talk about crazy things like vaccines or climate change or voter fraud or anything that'll get me banned. So I just don't put them on YouTube. I put everything on Rumble, and I put everything on X, JD Rucker, x.com/JD Rucker. Reason I'm telling you this is that I know there's some of you out there that, you know, you want to sit there and listen to a 1, 2, 3 hour show, and you want everything to be fresh. Others, as soon as a story like that one, by the way, earlier that we were talking about, yeah, I recorded that on Saturday, I believe. So yeah, if you want to get the stuff as soon as, if you want to wait for me, stay, that's great. Right here is great. But if you want to get it as it's coming out, I mean, I'll record it and then I'll write up a headline real quick and throw it out there. And I put that over at jdrucker.com/rumble1. I put most of them on my YouTube channel, and I put them, almost all of them, on X as well, x.com/jdrucker. Just a little side note, just because people ask, where can I find this? Somebody had asked earlier, do I put this anywhere else? Just as the individual clip. Like that individual clip won't go on the JD Rucker Show channel. Okay? I'll just put the whole show on here. It just makes it easier. And it's not trying to be complicated here. We've been trying to find the best ways to do what is really a very odd show. My format is super odd. I get it, but it's the way that I do it. So until we get a better way of doing it, we're going to keep doing it like this. So last clip from earlier today, this is where I got this really just ticked me off. Something that I saw on X, as a matter of fact, and I had to respond, and I had to do it live. I wasn't going to wait. And this is why, by the way, just so if you want to know why I pre-record some of it, do a lot of it live, it's because when I'm in the moment, I see a story, I want to talk about it. I don't want to just, let me write that down in my little notebook, and then I'll talk about it tonight. There are plenty of stories like that, but some of them, like this moron that made the video saying, I'm back in America after being deported, that one I wasn't going to wait till tonight to talk about. I wanted to talk about it right there and then, as soon as I saw it. And hopefully you understand why. Let's go and play that. Tom Homan and ICE should adopt a one-time deportation policy. Now let me explain. We keep hearing in the news about, every few days we hear about some violent crime makes local news. Usually it doesn't make national news unless it's a really violent crime. But I obviously watch local news a lot, and not just here, but also I monitor local news across the country. And you always hear about, this person has been captured after doing whatever crime that they committed, and records show they've been deported 6 times, 8 times, 15 times, or whatever. That's not going to work. That's ludicrous. And I was reminded of this video that I saw this morning, reminded me of this. It was somebody who had been captured by ICE, and they were deported 2 days ago, and they are posting this video. I think it was on TikTok or whatever. I saw it on X, but they were bragging about how, hey, guys, I'm back, and it's obviously he's like, I can smell the chicken nuggets, and I mean, it's just like, wow. Not only did he get deported and come right back, but now he's gloating about it publicly. And that just cannot be. So my proposal to Tom Homan, my proposal to ICE, or whoever needs to hear this proposal, is to have a one-time deportation rule. You get caught by ICE, you get deported. If you get caught again by ICE or whoever, Border Patrol, local law enforcement, you're back in the country after being deported, you don't get deported again. You get sent straight to someplace, probably Gitmo. They've got 30,000 beds that they're preparing there. That sounds like a reasonable destination. I know they're working with other countries. I think El Salvador is among those. Other nations that will allow them into the prison population. You see here, our prisons they're too nice. If you say, hey, we're going to put you in our prisons for an extended period of time, then a lot of people will do it just because it's better to go to an American prison than to go to a Mexican prison or some of these other prisons. That's the thought process. I know that sounds weird if you're a law-abiding citizen, but to many of these criminals, it's like, man, serving time in America, this is going to be great. 3 square meals a day, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, we don't want them in our prisons. If they've been deported, they come back, instead of deporting them again or putting them in our prisons, we need to send them somewhere. So I say Gitmo, El Salvador, make arrangements, make deals, are the deal kind of stuff. Let's make a deal and figure out where to put these people. And every criminal, illegal alien gets one opportunity to be deported. After that, then they're put away in a not so nice place for a very long time. Thank you for watching that. Every time. I picked the wrong ones. That's so silly of me. Like I said, I do pre-record some with the after report, whatever, and I just whatever today. I gotta gets me a producer ASAP. That's why I have these sponsors. I'm not gonna play any more sponsor posts. I get so annoyed with playing these sponsor posts. Not because I love my sponsors. Don't get me wrong. It's just it's like, okay, time to play another sponsor. It's not like I go off and use the bathroom or anything. It just it just is what it is, you know. Anyway, Sertorius01 says Trump calls Peter Booty Fudge as Pothole Peter. Yeah, it is what it is. So one of the stories that I'm going to be doing. Oh, real quick back about the sponsor. I'm not going to do another sponsor post, but we did pick up a new one. We're working with Alex Jones over at InfoWars, promoting. It's kind of a dual promotion. They put my beef product, my long-term storage beef, they put that over at the InfoWars store, and now I've started promoting their store. And you can get to their store and support Alex Jones and InfoWars. I know that's polarizing. Some people love him, some people hate him. There's very few that are like indifferent to him. All I know is that he's been right more than he's wrong. When he's wrong, he's spectacularly wrong. Okay, but when he's right, he's spectacularly right. So I have no problem with putting that out there and helping him to raise the money that he needs to stay on air. I really wish that Elon Musk would just buy InfoWars. That'd make it so, or somebody else, maybe not Elon, somebody else. But with that said, if you go to jdrucker.com/InfoWars, jdrucker.com/InfoWars, you can shop the InfoWars store and I get 10%. It's a great little arrangement we got there. And vice versa. If you buy long-term storage beef through the InfoWars store, then they get, I think, actually, they get 15%, if I recall. I don't know. I don't handle the business side, if you couldn't tell. But yeah, it's great. So jdrucker.com/InfoWars. I'm going to play this one piece. And I'm not going to do this story. This is a teaser for tomorrow's show because I will admit this is something I said earlier. I promised that it's not just going to be a love on Trump fest. That I'm the type of guy, when he does right, I'm going to say he does right, and I'm going to cheer him on all the way. When he does something I disagree with, I'm going to call it out, okay? I was there screaming my head off when he and the first administration were pushing the bump stock bans. It's like, no, stop it. No. And thankfully that got reversed. But here, this is something where I understand the sentiment, I get it, but I'll explain why, and I'll explain in more detail tomorrow why I think this is wrong.
We're telling Ukraine they have very valuable rare earth. We want what we put up to go in terms of a guarantee. We want a guarantee. We're handing them money hand over fist. We're giving them equipment. European is not keeping up with us. They should equalize. And look, we have an ocean in between. They don't. It's more important for them than it is for us. But they're way below us in terms of money. And they should be paying at least equal. They should really be paying much more than us. But let's say equal to us. And they're billions and billions of dollars below. So we're looking to do a deal with Ukraine where they're going to secure what we're giving them with their rare earth and other things.
Okay. So that sounds reasonable, right? I mean, it sounds reasonable to expect the European Union, who they're right there, they should be paying as much, if not more than us. Okay. It's reasonable to expect that we should have some guarantees, right? Guarantees for rare earths. My problem is, okay, we already gave them like hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't want guarantees. I want the rare earths. Okay. I want to be able to say, hey, Ukraine, good luck. We're sending you zero. We already sent you way more than you needed, way more than you deserved. We shouldn't have sent you a single penny. We should have stayed out of it. But since we already paid hundreds of billions of dollars, we'd like you to just give us your rare earths. Yeah. We're not going to make you pay us back. the money that you won't be able to pay back anyway. But you got these things that we want. China's cutting us off. We already paid it. We already sent you the arms. We already sent you the money. It's not my fault that you can't find 100 billion of it. So you give us this, and this, and we'll call it even. And and we're not sending in a single penny more. That's my take. And again, I'll be talking about that more tomorrow. We are over the 2-hour mark. Anybody who's listened to my shows before, when I was doing shortwave, I could go 4 hours. There were days where, my happiest day, I had a 2-hour show. My happiest days were when they'd come on, they say, hey, we're not getting the show today from such and such. So can you do an extra, do you want to do an extra 2 hours? Or otherwise we're just going to play a rerun. I'm like, no, give me all 4 hours. I'll take it. And I will just go for 4 hours. And this is way too much information, but my biological superpower is that I can, as long as I use the restroom ahead of time, I can go for an extended period of time without having to use the restroom. I know that sounds crazy, but I can do 4 hours nonstop radio when I don't have to stand up during commercial breaks other than to stretch if I need to stretch. So, point is, we're over 2 hours. That seems to be the sweet spot. I could keep going. I really had here. I'll show you the stories that I had, because we will be talking about, and this is what I do, since we're doing insider information or whatever today, inside baseball. What I do is I will pick out a whole bunch of stories, and I will try to get to as many of them as I can. So I was going to get in this story would take 20 or 30 minutes. Slash the fat, 16 agencies to terminate. Probably cover that tomorrow. Trump administration shuts down U.S. I was going to talk about that. We've already talked about it a bunch, but I wanted to see what Natural News had to say. Just the News says Democrat senator placed blanket hold on Trump State Department nominees over USAID scuffle. Okay. No, I can't skip that one. I'm going to go ahead and talk about this one. Just real quick. Stay with me. Stay with me, folks. Just real quick. So, Democrat Hawaii Senator Brian Schatz on... Stop it. On Monday announced that he was placing a blanket hold on all of President Trump's nominees for the State Department over reports that the president is planning to close the U.S. Agency for International Development. My thought there, just briefly on that, is go for it. You want to stall stuff? Awesome. That'll give John Thune all the predicate he needs to get with Mike Johnson, shut down, go into an 11-day recess, and then let Trump just do recess appointments on day 11. Okay, you need 10 days of recess in order for it in order for the president's recess powers to kick in. So you do 11 days. Let's just get it done, get it over with. Let's get to work. We've already seen what President Trump can do with a very small portion of his cabinet, of his staff. Now let's fill the rest of the roles, and let's just save America, okay? Save America. That's what we're going to do, as Elon Musk's kid, little X, would say. What are we going to do? We're going to save America. We're going to help Trump. Yeah. All right. So I got that story coming. We've got, let's see. Got this one. What was this going to be? Bill Kristol. Yeah, I'll probably skip that one. Such an idiot. He said the deep state is far preferable to the Trump state because he's Bill Kristol, and that's what he would say. Welcome home. Special. This is one I will talk about for sure tomorrow. Rick Grinnell. I'll give you a brief. So over the weekend, Rick Grinnell, this special envoy for special missions or something like that. I remember when his title was announced, I'm like, what in the world is that? Now we know. Now we know what it is. He's basically, you send Marco Rubio from the State Department to handle all of the easy stuff, all the tough stuff, all of the weird stuff. But then when you get something that's really tough or really weird or something that you want really on the down low, that's when you send in Rick Grinnell. And he went in there on a diplomatic mission to Venezuela, came back with 6 hostages, or 6 prisoners, not hostages, prisoners. Okay, now we know. And I am going to cover that in detail, more detail tomorrow. Georgia lawmakers wanting their own version of Doge. I'm not going to cover this one, but yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Oklahoma's doing the same thing. Other states are looking at it. They're seeing what's potential there. It's like, okay, well, they can start saving all this money and making government more efficient at the federal level. Surely we can do it at the state level. I would argue that even more important than the state level, start doing it at the city level. Oh my gosh, if Chicago, New York, Houston, LA, if they started doing this, they would because they're all run by leftists. But if they would, holy cow, they could actually make cities work again. Cities should be the most important level of quote unquote government. I'm not talking about self-governance. I'm definitely not talking about our responsibilities as individuals and natural law. I'm saying as far as accepted real government, cities should have the most say over our day-to-day lives. And that's why, anyway, that's a discussion for another day. Doge has their next target. Libs are about to freak out. They will, because it's the Department of Education. We are definitely going to talk about that tomorrow. Everything will be revealed. Americans overwhelmingly support Trump's release of RFK or JFK assassination files. Not much of a story there, but maybe interesting. What else? Bitcoin rallies as Trump signs sovereign wealth. This morning I saw Bitcoin drop down to like 95, 96,000. Last I checked, it was back up to like 103,000. Of course, this is after news that the Mexican and Canadian tariffs were put on hold. I'd like to talk about, and then the sovereign wealth fund. We're definitely going to talk about that. I would just, if you want to see a quick preview, watch the press release, or not the press release, the Oval Office press conference about it as he's signing the executive order. I got questions, but they say they're going to buy. Possibly the U.S. government is going to buy TikTok as a result of this. I have questions. Anyway, and then last but not least, ad blocker. See, I told you and I've turned off the ad blocker, to be clear. It still won't let me do it. Not on this particular browser. So that's a sneak peek of what's going to happen tomorrow's show. And like I said, if you want to get previews of some of the segments, best way to do that, X or my alternate Rumble channel, which will eventually be my primary Rumble channel. Right now the Rumble channel that I've got, my main Rumble channel where most people are watching is it's got like 34,000 subscribers or something like that. My other one has like 1,000. When that one gets to like say 20, 30,000, then I'll do the whole, Indiana Jones switcheroo, right? Switcheroo. But in the meantime, I'm just going to run both. And I will, but to be clear, don't think, I'll abandon this one. I won't abandon this one. I just want this one to be very focused on just the live shows, and I want the other one to have all the live shows plus the clips. And not just even my clips. I put other clips there as well. Clips that I'll be using on the show, clips that I won't be using on the show, yada, yada, yada. So that is it for today. Lord willing, I will be back very soon with another episode. But in the meantime, you all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.